This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. All right, we're out of technical difficulties. Hell, I think we have everything finally up and running. It is a Tuesday night, folks. That means sports talk on a late night Tuesday, about 45 minutes after we wanted to get on the air. But again, technical difficulties are just not everyone's cup of tea. Yes, a timer violation on both yours truly, Callan McClurg and James Gonzales here. Regardless, folks, it's C2C at night. It's a Tuesday evening, May 21st, 2024. We're not going to be here, folks, for too long tonight. James and I talked well before the show today, like literally 8 hours, 9 hours. I want to make sure I give James enough time to get home from work and kind of get settled and stuff and watch some of the games that are going on. And we're going to keep things, folks, kind of condensed tonight here. So we're going to be talking a lot of baseball, a lot of basketball, and a little bit of hockey and some WNBA action as well. But we're not going to go too full deep into a lot of our coverage tonight, again, just because we've been against the clock here with these technical problems and faults over the last 45 minutes. Anyway, folks, it's C2C at night. That man is James Gonzales. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, joining you here, both of us here in San Diego County. Mr. Gonzales, great to see you, man. I know it's been a while, and good to see you, though, man. How we doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing really well. I was kind of sad that there wasn't any NHL tonight, but there will be the next couple of days, and I can't wait for that. We had a barn burner in Boston tonight, so that was really fun. A lot of baseball action as well going on.
Yeah, a lot of baseball, and we'll also, folks, talk about that very wild game between the Pacers and the Celtics on top of the Stanley Cup playoffs, now getting into the conference finals, some early WNBA action as well as we kind of get the season for them rolling. We have one more big announcement coming a little bit later in the show as well concerning C2C, myself, and also perhaps a new program is going to be coming our way sometime later this month or even into June and over the course of the summer. And I know we have nobody watching because, again, we are literally 48 minutes late here getting our program started on this Tuesday. But, of course, folks, if you're up, though, late with us here on Coast to Coast at night or on C2C at night, as we call it, again, we invite your input again, questions, comments, concerns, or cold takes, loony takes or freezing cold takes, all in the live chat box. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary is read live on the air on this Tuesday going into Wednesday morning at this rate. With that, James, I don't want to beat around the bush too much, though, with baseball tonight. I do want to kind of at least bring up in some small capacity the new allegations. You know, James, and I even said this to some friends, you knew the story was not going to be going away anytime soon. James, to no one's surprise, though, we have a third man now named in the ongoing IP Mizuhara Shohei Ohtani gambling scandal. That is former Angel infielder turned potential Braves relief pitcher David Fletcher, who was a longtime teammate of both of Shohei Ohtani with the Los Angeles Angels during his roughly 6 to 8 year time of his time playing with the Angel organization, who has now been not directly linked, but now indirectly linked now to IP Mizuhara, dating back to about 3 years ago in San Diego at a poker game where IP had introduced David Fletcher to Matthew Boyer, who is the main focal point of this gambling operation here in Southern California, who is still going to be facing charges of some type pretty soon. And now, James, Tisha Thompson and TJ Quinn have been doing a great job covering this ongoing story with this Ohtani and Mizuhara gambling situation. I give these guys credit, James. I give both Tisha and TJ their flowers here for covering a very, controversial talking point, again, that has really gripped the baseball fan base across the board. But now, James, I think we all knew, though, that there was that as more time goes on or went on, somebody else was going to be named in this report of some type. And now, James, we have David Fletcher being named now. Now, of course, David again did say, "Hey, I did make some wagers, but they were not against baseball." But James, the big turning point, though, in this story for me is this: from the reports from both Quinn and Tisha Thompson, Colby Schultz, who was a minor league pitcher in the Royals organization, great friend too of David Fletcher, was wagering on baseball. And I even, James, had this run through my head late last night when I was, kind of contemplating what we're going to talk about on the show on Tuesday, is that, man, now what James and I talked about last month, or back in March when this whole story broke about, did Ohtani actually leave a pitching start early because of an actual injury or because of cramping or fatigue? Because now, though, James, this now adds a layer of this David Fletcher, Colby Schultz story about, well, hey, Colby Schultz was out here wagering on his buddy David Fletcher and his ball club, which was the Los Angeles Angels, who, oh, by the way, had some guy named Shohei Ohtani as a two-way player for this team. Now, James, we kind of now are getting to a little bit more now, James, let's say, of a dark red or a red dangerous area now that we know that Schultz is probably the only guy who may get banned from baseball. And now, though, James, now this domino effect now has started, and I don't like it one damn bit. But, James, your thoughts on the big story in baseball, man? You knew it was coming. Someone else has been named in the Saki Mizuhara Shohei Ohtani gambling saga.
What we were not hoping for. And it was just
Precisely.
funny because David Fletcher would always hang out with Shohei. They would hang out in the dugout. When Fletcher was up with the team, he kept going back and forth. But the scary part that I always held out doubt to what the FBI ruled and what the courts ruled, did Shohei have some effect on games? And did he tip someone to say, hey, I'm just going to pitch a couple of innings today and just get dehydration and leave? Or, yeah, I'll let a sweeper go down the middle and I'll allow a couple of home runs to cover that bet you have, I'm dreading that this doesn't go into court, right? So then you have a whole thing where it's like, okay, you got to bring Fletcher in. You got to bring Shohei in with another interpreter. And you have to ask him, hand on Bible, whatever the case is, under oath. Did you tell someone, hey, I'm going to give up this many runs, or I'm going to fix the game in this way? What did David Fletcher have? What was your relationship with David Fletcher? And obviously it was a great one. So the dreading part is like, hey, we have to go back like we did, like you talked about a month ago. We have to go back in time and say, hey, why did Shohei give up this many runs against the Braves in 2022? Why in 2023 against the Padres on July 4th give up that many runs? And then why did he leave a start early last year and the year before that? I'm hoping this doesn't turn out to be another Black Sox scandal. Now, again, Epi Mazahar, he's the fall guy in this case, what everybody really thinks happened, but allegedly didn't happen according to prosecutors. And this Colby Schultz angle here, this just makes it worse, and it puts everything back on the table again to every possibility that can come up. This isn't going away, like you said. And adding Fletcher to it last week, now you have Colby Schultz. And now you have to bring everybody back in and say, hey, tell me everything truthfully. And we're going to get you on a lie detector under oath, so don't lie to us. But hopefully, well, I shouldn't say it hopefully affects Shohei, but if it brings out the truth, you got to wonder what it does to Ohtani. Because he's having a hell of a year with the Dodgers so far, and we knew that was going to happen. But imagine he gets plucked out of the season and into questioning, and just the worst happens where, like, oh, you're banned or you suspend it, whatever the case is. So yeah, this story isn't done, Callan, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, James, I think you're right. And I think we were waiting for that other shoe to fall. We knew about what had gone on in March in Korea, where I think IP actually, to his credit in this whole entire story, he actually called the team called this meeting, I think, and said, "Hey, I've got something I'd like to tell everyone, that I have this gambling addiction. I'm probably going to be fired. So, hey, nice knowing you all for the last couple of months." And kind of like James, you alluded to him kind of being the fall guy, but I agree with Christy Wilson so much. She was up late joining us. This gambling situation is getting more crazy by the minute. I think, James, it's only getting crazier for the fact of what Tisha Thompson and TJ Quinn put out in their story on ESPN.com was about David Fletcher. You said, again, very close confidant of Shohei during his time with the Angels. But now, though, we have this other story that's getting traction. Buddy of David Fletcher in the Royals organization, who openly admitted to wagering on baseball, and he would wager only on Angel games usually if David was playing in the game. So now you're thinking about Fletcher's stats, but also you're looking at what did Ohtani do in these games. One game I can think of, James, the 8 RBI game he had against the Royals where they lost in 12 innings, like 15-12. He had the game-tying homer down by 3 with 2 outs and 2 strikes. But then you also, like you said, they'll think back to when they came to San Diego July 4th of, I believe, last season. And the Padres lit him up like a Christmas tree on Christmas morning. But also, for the simple fact, though, now of, I think, James, you're right. I think now that we have Colby Schultz and David Fletcher kind of being, 2 peas in a pod, now I think this is where baseball, I think, begins to use the magnifying glass now. And I think further, I wouldn't say watch Ohtani further, but now I think, though, James, you're right, though, that I believe now at this rate, James, do you believe commissioner's list now becomes Ohtani's fate, though, if there is something that does preclude maybe Fletcher getting a call, Colby Schultz getting a call, or even Ohtani getting a call again, and some representative from the Dodgers to represent him, where I think that Manfred and maybe Tony Clark, maybe, it has to be like a big, like, 5-way meeting. It has to be Clark in the commissioner's office, Shohei, Fletch, Colby Schultz, and the interpreter. So maybe a 6-man, tag team match practically. But James, more so, what do you think would happen, though, if in fact Ohtani is maybe put on that exemption list, though, or the commissioner's list, now that this story now has come up on the radar?
I have doubts that it'll happen because,
I mean, I do too, but you still kind of wonder, I think, now that we, just for the fact now of former teammate, friend of this former teammate, wagering on baseball, wagering on his friend, who, oh, by the way, happened to be a teammate of Ohtani for about 6 years.
Yeah, that's just the crazy thing about it. It's like, okay, Ohtani got away with it once, and he was lucky to have a fall guy. Maybe he didn't know there was other guys involved, including his best friend on the team. But how would he not know? Like, it's a situation where Epi had the access to Ohtani's books, the bank account.
Which we talked about back in March.
You have all that, and you don't know how much money is leaving your account back and forth because he's taking all the notifications off. Like, nah, you got to know something. There's no way you can hurt your or see your bank account less and less, and expecting it all to be, paid back. Or you're just such an honorable person, and you say, "Oh, just keep it and let me know when you can pay me back." But I hope that happens because we got to get to the bottom of this. But I just feel like Ohtani's, that big of a person for the MLB that he doesn't, the league doesn't want to put him in another complicated position, especially during the season like this. Well, my guess would happen any type of meeting like that, Callan, is say, hey, let's address it after the season.
That was my next point, is that I could see this being a thing that's handled after the year concludes.
Yeah, because MLB doesn't want to lose out on all that Ohtani money they've already been getting. But imagine the worst things for us, where the
Right.
Dodgers are in the playoffs, they're in the World Series, they win the darn thing. Otani's the MVP, Otani's everything. Okay, at least you have that. But that's why I think the cash cow of Otani being of the MLB, that I don't think anything will happen then. But I hope we get to the bottom of this. And again, like I mentioned, I hope they bring everybody back and say, hey, we got to talk about this. This isn't going away. There's so many different connections, and you mentioned all the connections. And I didn't think how serious it was last week. But now that there's another person linked with Fletcher, linked with Shohei, linked with Epi, well, it's not
Who's
linked to
next?
Otani yet, but it probably will. But then, yeah, you figure who else bet it? Justin Upton, Rendon possibly, which I don't mind if that happens.
Any other
But
players who may have been traded during that time that Fletcher was in Anaheim?
that's the thing too. Okay, so you mentioned that was it Schultz? I'm sorry. The
Yeah,
new
Colby Schultz.
Schultz.
So
Okay.
yeah, so apparently Schultz told or was named in this article by Tisha Thompson, and she's been on top of this story from day one. Then you add in TJ Quinn and his reporting from outside the lines in East 60. I believe one or both of them did right, and it eludes me. It's been a long day. Is that Schultz was wagering on baseball. Now Fletcher again is a lot like Otani saying, "Hey, I never bet on baseball. I may have bet on the NFL or the NBA, but never touched baseball." But I believe that Schultz actually in the article was listed and named as someone who was wagering on baseball and
Mm-hmm.
would wager whenever David Fletcher was in the lineup for the Angels, which again I think just kind of adds a bit more of like, what kind of inside information did Fletcher and Otani have that they could give to Schultz to make money for himself?
So Schultz, I'm reading a former minor leaguer player, also bet with Bauer, that the head of the whole OC betting company or scheme, wagered on baseball, including games that Fletcher was on the team. So not particularly in the lineup. We kind of remember him being back and forth. After a while, he got injured, but he never
Right.
really performed well. And you just wonder again, do you go back to the Black Sox scandal where, he should have made that play? Or why did he strike out in 3 pitches? And we all remember his swing where it was just like that. And
David Eckstein.
yeah, but I just remember Fletcher not being good. And eventually that's why the Angels traded him. He was a fan favorite too.
And he was
And
also like on a serious note, he was usually sadly injured. I mean, I think he
that
had
too.
I think he was battling a pretty big hip problem, I think, before he got dealt to the Braves.
And I guess when you're sitting there and you have all that time, you just say, hey, I might as well help somebody else out while I'm just sitting here. And it looks like FBI found out. So yeah, I'm just hoping the meeting happens, and it would be juicier if it happened during this season. But my guess, MLB does not want to lose out on all that revenue of Otani being on the Dodgers and playing in games. So it's got to be after the season, I think.
Yeah, I think it'll be once the Dodgers are out in round one again,
God
which I
willing.
think we all hope, and then, or if they win it all. I think it'll be after their season concludes, whether it's wild card round exit somehow, some way, if they squander that division lead, or if they do bomb out in the DS or CS, or they get all the way and win or lose. I think that's going to be the thing that will probably, I think, grip the baseball headlines over the 2024 offseason. But again, folks, if you're just kind of coming around here on baseball again, David Fletcher, former Angel infielder, currently in the Braves organization, has now been linked via a report by 2 ESPN reporters, Tisha Thompson and TJ Quinn, to the ongoing issues with the Shohei Otani IP Mizuhara wagering scandal. I'll have more about that when more news does break and develop. James, one more from baseball today, man. The Chicago Cubs took home a walk-off victory, 4-3 and 10 over Atlanta. However, though, James, the Cubbies, though, did send struggling starter Kyle Hendricks and his very much anchor of a ERA of 10.57 to the Cubs bullpen to hopefully, I think, help him get his head back in order. James, Chicago, man, they've been, I think, not a great surprise. They've been a very great ball club so far, though. I mean, honestly, Shota Imanaga is must-see TV when he's on the mound, though. Between him and Yoshi Yamamoto with the Dodgers, there's been a lot of great starting pitching this season, man. But, Imanaga's that guy. But Hendricks, though, James, though, I think we're kind of just at that rate right now of like, hey, veteran guy, probably doesn't have his A game right now. James, thoughts about Craig Counsell and the Cubs moving Kyle Hendricks to the bullpen to hopefully get his ERA back down from over 10 over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, he was one of my favorite starters. Of course, on the World Series team, and after that, he's kind of the one that's been there ever since. He's probably the last one there from that team, I think, in 2016. I've always liked him, but eventually you start to lose throughout all the innings, you start to lose your form, I think. There is a hope that he does come back to the rotation, I believe Counsell said. For the first 7 years of his MLB career, he was an unconventional top of the arm rotation. And I think all that pressure got to him. He's always had great command, but that has not been the case this year. And then one thing I've always liked about him too, he always kept the ball low. And of course at Wrigley, it's a great thing to do that. Depending if the flags are flying out or in, you always want to keep that ball low. And he was always a master at that. He didn't have the velocities or the strikeout totals that make you say, wow. But he was just finesse. And I think that was cool about him. I think he had a couple of Cy Young top 10 finishes here. But, 21, 22, it's been like 5 ERA. So you could just tell the decline has been, here for a little while now. And hopefully this will make him be better to say, hey, less pressure on you. Once you start doing well, the bullpen, hey, put you back in the rotation, but we'll keep an eye on you. Just keep the ball low and keep everybody swinging and missing. That's the hope. I do think, what is it? He has a $16.5 million option for this season or next season, and I don't know if they'll do it. But yeah, he's always been dependable, but the last few years he hasn't.
Saying hello to our good man Jack Braun, joining us tonight here on a very late edition of C2C at night here again. We were stuck in technical difficulty torture chambers for about 45 minutes when we came on the air. Here, but sitting with that, James, I want to go back or want to talk one more baseball topic here, James. 2-part question. We're about 50 games into the season, roughly 51 for certain ball clubs. James, give me your biggest surprise and biggest disappointments right now, team-wise, in baseball in the standings.
Okay, for me, the biggest surprise are definitely the Kansas City Royals. Last year, you got to really know them. They played the Angels very tough. I got to see that. But this year, it's not only Bobby Witt Jr. It's other guys. Pasquantino, Melendez, Salvador Perez has had a renaissance of a season.
Talking about turning back the clock.
Yeah. And I think what has helped him too, Callan, is that he is not catching every day. He's being the DH. He's taking days off when he should. So that's been really good. But they also have a great rotation. And when they put that together this offseason, I said, man, they're really doing something there. They got 2 Padre former starters and Seth Lugo and
Michael Wacha.
And both are doing fair. Well, Lugo's doing better than Wacha. Lugo has been amazing. I mean, ever since he left the Mets, he was good with the Padres last year. Signed a deal with Kansas City this year. Bullpen is kind of solid. Will Smith is there, by the way. But yeah, I just like what they're doing. They took 3 out of 4 from the Angels last weekend, I believe. Yeah, last weekend. And they play the ball. They play the game pretty well. They run really well around the bases. They get outs. They're really good. So I just hope it continues. And You can even say the Guardians are a surprise too, right there in first place, and Kansas City's in second. Um, so yeah, Cleveland, I guess, would be even though they won the division last year, nobody really thought of them to be anything. And both Naylor brothers are making contact, and Tristan McKenzie, coming back this year. He was out pretty much all last year, and this year he's having a great year, and I'm very happy for him. Okay, the most disappointing team, I would say the Toronto Blue Jays. They are so helter skelter, and I mean that offensively. And
Big time.
there's rumors now, and I don't know if it's true or not, but they're shopping Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. And if they do that, they're going to rebuild. And I think for the last, I would say since 2020, 2019, whenever the case is, whatever has been the case, they've always had expectations, and they've added on. They added some power. They made some trades. I think the fact that they don't have Teoscar Hernandez, I think that kind of hurts them. You see what he's doing now with the Dodgers. That's been a big loss. They used to have Gurriel. That's a big loss as well. Just these little things that have, subtracted from the Blue Jays are kind of hurting them. They have a few starters that were good before and not anymore. Kikimchi is decent, but Alex Manoah, this guy, remember, he's an all-star in 21.
Fell off the face of the earth, sadly.
Twice. He's been sent down to the rookie A-ball or beyond A-ball in Florida. And it's just crazy to think a former all-star has fallen twice to that level, and they can't get him back to the level he was. And it's just unfortunate. The offense is here and there, but it seems like too, and I believe they were playing Seattle, I want to say, on the weekend, and it seems like they've been losing really close games as well. That's where that offense that should be very potent isn't there. They've had bad hitting streaks, at the beginning of the season.
Bad cold
and
spells,
now,
yes.
Yeah, and now definitely. So I think because they're in last place at 21-26, they should be the biggest disappointment. I know Tampa Bay's 500, but they lost a lot in the offseason as well, on and off the field.
They have their own PR nightmare going on too.
And how? So yeah, Toronto's got to be the biggest disappointment. I know you can say Atlanta, but they have to deal with the Spencer Strider injury. St. Louis, I think this is just who they are. This until Goldsman is gone and they figure out Arenado and stop bringing in, players that used to be there or older players. They just got to figure it out. Now the Reds, they're young. I know they're in last place at 20-28. They've had a brutal schedule, and they're not who they were last year. So I think that's kind of tough. Same thing with Arizona, but Arizona's trying to climb back up. But definitely Toronto, they should be way better than what they are.
Yeah, I think, James, I would agree with you. I would probably go Cleveland as my biggest surprise because this is a team, like you were saying about the Braves losing Strider. How about the Guardians losing Shane Bieber the same week of the Braves losing Strider with the arm injuries? But again, Jose Ramirez has been there. I love Steven Kwan as a leadoff guy. I mean, that guy, you want to talk about setting the table between Luis Ariz and San Diego. Steven Kwan and him might be like the two best guys to have leading off for your respective ball club to get on base and get the, kind of get that table set for your 2, 3, and 4 hitters. So I would go Cleveland as my biggest surprise in the American League. In the National League, if I had to pick a surprise, honestly, James, I would probably go with Milwaukee. Their manager leaves to go and manage the Cubs and Craig Counsell. Pat Murphy had a little bit of some experience in San Diego when they canned Buddy Black in 2015 when they first brought in all the big name guys like Will Myers and those guys. And then Pat went back to being a bench coach, has been there with the Brewers ever since he was let go after that 2015 season. They've had their they've lost their own pitchers with Hauser and Burns being gone. And Yelich has been kind of in and out of the order with his back problems. And a lot of unnamed guys have kind of kept this Milwaukee ball club, about a game and a half, 1.5 games clear of the Cubs. So I would go Cleveland and Milwaukee for my biggest surprises. biggest disappointments, James, I would agree with you about the Blue Jays in the American League. I mean, Toronto, you know, all those young kids like Biggio and Bichette and then Vlad Jr., they brought George Springer in. Kevin Kiermaier's come in. They did get Dalton Varsho in that trade we're talking about for Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Jose, Barrios is still a solid number one starter, but then Kikuchi's kind of fallen off a little bit, though. Jordan Romano's been a little bit shaky in the back half of the bullpen. And then, Alek Manoah, again, bona fide all-star 3 or 4 years ago, all of a sudden is being sent back to the complex league in Florida. Not even A-ball. I mean, we're talking the complex leagues now in Florida to get to get him right back on track. And I know that's been a very rough go for him to come back. And probably I'd say biggest disappointment in the National League. Man, it's a little bit hard, James, I think, really pinpoint or point the finger at a major letdown right now in the National League. But if there's an easy way out, the New York Metropolitans, they have their own mess right now. Steve Cohen, of course, who has spent so much money. Then, of course, he flaps his gums on X, though, James, and says that, we might make a trade tomorrow. Obviously the post got deleted, but still, like, even that kind of an owner, though, James, even knows that he's in over his head right now. I think that they're trying to, lock up Pete Alonso. I heard 5 years, 170. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they're going to probably, tear that whole entire ball club down. I mean, if we thought Scherzer and Verlander being dealt was one thing with the Mets, wait till this year maybe with like Alonso getting traded, Jeff McNeil getting traded, Edwin Diaz maybe getting traded. I think there's a lot of bona fide trade chips right there, and that the Mets just did a full-blown reset. And I think that this club, though, James, is nowhere near where they were in 2015 when they made that run to the World Series and lost to Kansas City. Again, they brought in Scherzer and Verlander, I think, in 2022. Like, that was supposed to, like, that felt like that could have been their year in 2022. Padres knocked them out, though, in the wild card round because they got to Scherzer early. They got to Verlander, or they got to Scherzer, I think, twice in that series, and they obviously didn't beat DeGrom, but even DeGrom's out of there. Like, 3 bona fide aces are out of New York. And I think the next big trade chip is going to be Pete Alonso very soon. So I would go with that. With the Blue Jays and Mets is my biggest, right now, my biggest teams who have been, disappointments right now. But then Cleveland for sure has got to be the biggest surprise right now. Real quick, James, excuse me, a couple of comments here before I get to the basketball topics here. Jack first writes, he says, "Hey, fellas, do you believe that John Schneider is on the hot seat with the Blue Jays, especially after their notable playoff flameouts the last 2 years and now this year's awful start? Very stunned that Vlad Jr. is hitting so poorly. Man, has he fallen off, and also Schneider has fallen off. It just feels like that he was never accepted by the clubhouse, and as it felt like he was a hire by the GM to get a manager he could control from the front office." So, James, I think Jack is onto a good point again. You said it, though, James. The Blue Jays have had expectations. Again, that young core of, former big leaguers who now have their kids playing, like Biggio and Vlad Jr. and Bichette, and again, like those other veterans, again, like Kiermaier and Alejandro Kirk and George Springer. Like, it does kind of feel like, though, James, that they've gotten into the postseason a couple times, but they're kind of, one and done wild card round DS. And again, they really have not made that big leap since that 2015, bat flip by Jose Bautista versus the Rangers in the ALDS. But James, what do you think about John Schneider maybe being on the hot seat in Toronto?
Right now, I would think he'd be the first one to get fired if they continue this way. I know there's talk about Seattle, but they've grown up lately, so I think Service is safe. But Snyder definitely. You got it. I think what was his name? Montoyo.
Charlie Montoyo, yeah.
The manager before. Remember, he was supposed to be the guy, and then his voice just did not translate in the locker room anymore.
And I think that was even, James, after he was like in the top 3 for voting for manager of the year during the COVID season in 2020, I believe, too.
That's amazing that after just 1 or 2 years, that voice, the players now, they have so much power, And one day they could get sick of his voice after a losing streak or something, and just say, "Hey, the general manager will be told by a star player, hey, we don't want him around anymore." The same thing's going to happen with Snyder. I mean, he was the guy that the players used to like, and said, "Hey, instead of Montoyo, let's just have Snyder in here. We really respect him and like him." But now it's just a cycle again, where it's just like, oh yeah, if things are going right, let's just get rid of him and we'll try to police it ourselves. So Snyder's probably the first one gone. Um, and also look out for Grifflow, the White Sox manager, probably. That's just a lost cause there. But for the fact the Blue Jays are that bad, it's just, yeah, he's definitely on the hot seat for sure.
One more name for you, James. Skip Schumacher in Miami.
Yeah, I heard rumors that, despite Marmol getting that extension, the Cardinals want to go back to the Cardinal way and keep bringing in former Cardinals.
What?
And they want they want to bring in Skip Schumacher
Make
next
it
season.
stop.
Sometimes you have to go out of your comfort box to get to the goal you want to go to, right? And they just continue to keep it in the family, and I know you hate when that happens.
This isn't the Lakers, for God's sakes. Figure it out, man.
Right.
Jeez.
So there, and then there was one more. Yeah, definitely Marmol. Definitely Marmol. But there was one more I had on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, I think those guys are gone. I think Bud Black is pretty safe. There's no expectations there, and been given nothing but young players. I don't think
veteran scrap heaps who are way past their prime.
Yeah, and I think the Mets manager is safe. I forget the dude's name, but
Carlos Mendoza.
Yeah, I think he's fine. AJ Hinch, I think if they pick it up, I think he'll be safe.
Yeah, I mean they've been playing some good ball. I know the record doesn't indicate that, but I think that they've shown some improvement this year, though, for sure in Detroit.
Alex Cora might be a guy, but they're a game above 500. I know patience.
I mean, and they're in the American League East. Like, really can't hold that against Boston, for example. I mean, I think John Schneider. I'd go Schneider, Chicago White Sox, Miami's like the first three guys who probably get the boot.
Yeah, and then Mark Kotsay with Oakland, I think it's just a lost cause. I don't. It's the same as the White Sox for me,
and in the same as Buddy Black in Colorado.
Yeah, I just think it's a lost cause, and you're just trying to develop players. But that whole thing in Toronto and in St. Louis, both birds are just not taking off so far.
That is for sure. And that is our baseball segment. We will now move over, folks, to the NBA postseason. Eastern Conference Finals game number 1. It went beyond overtime. It involved not one, not two, but 3 Indiana Pacer turnovers that kept the door ajar. And the Boston Celtics win it running away in overtime, 133-128, a final in OT from TD Garden in Boston, Massachusetts, which, of course, James, gives the Celtics a 1-0 lead. But, of course, we'll be talking about the Jaylen Brown inbound fadeaway 3 with a defender on his back, or at least defending him, I should say, but him falling out of bounds, putting up the 3, nothing but the bottom of the net to force overtime. Then the Celtics win it running away, 133-128 for the 1-0 series lead. James, it looked for a while, man, that this very young, energetic, and scrappy Rick Carlisle-led Pacers ball club may have, kind of in a way punched the Celtics in the mouth in game 1. But, James, I think I alluded to this, though, either on Press Row on May 9th or on Coast to Coast at Night on May 7th, where I kind of said that the Pacers, though they're a good team, you can tell they still don't quite know how to close out a ball game. And it came to fruition at the worst possible time on Tuesday evening with with that shot by Jaylen Brown. They were trading blow after blow running down the final minutes of the game. But in the end, though, James, it's 3 costly turnovers in their own backcourt that leads to Boston winning this game 133-128. James, overall takeaways from this, very exciting first game, though. But, James, more about the Celtics winning it or the Pacers just giving it away?
I hate that question, but I think it's both, because if it wasn't for Indiana's, non-experience to get the ball out correctly, or for Rick Carlisle not to use his 3 timeouts in that situation down the stretch, we'd be looking at a different score. We'd be looking
at
at
a Pacers win, probably.
Yeah, Halliburton would make the free throws. I know Obi Toppin did, surprisingly, at the end there, but it would have been different. Yeah, the Pacers probably would have held on. But, man, and it was even like weird angles to get the ball into. The last one that went off Siakam, somebody should have came to the ball right away. The one before that, though, Halliburton brought it down. I think he saw Neesmith or Toppin. No, why would the hell would he pass to Toppin? But yeah, he lost it and he tried to pass it to Toppin, who's a bad free throw shooter.
It was already way out of bounds.
Yeah, he tried to save it or whatnot. But I'm thinking to myself, just hold the damn ball. They're not going to foul you. They're going to let you run the shot clock and hopefully stop you and get the ball and call a timeout. That was just puzzling, the way that game went down. But Indiana, they've tended to do that this year, in this postseason, I should say. They had a couple of mistakes against Milwaukee. They let 2 games slip away in New York. The first 2, I should say, in weird ways, where turnovers and fouls came into play. So they're used to that. I'm wondering how they'll bounce back. But the amazing part was T.J. McConnell with his 13 points. That was a surprise. Obi Toppin with 15. Halliburton with 25. Turner had 23. And it's amazing to see Miles Turner. And again, I'm so happy that he was able to stick around to see what the Pacers could do. But he had a big 23, and he's taking his game outside. He's no longer an inside presence. He does throw it down, but he's outside shooting threes as well. Siakam, you know what he does. He brings it every night, offensively and defensively. Neesmith has been a big surprise, as well as Nembhard, the Canadian-born player as well. But I think it came down to Celtics knowing how to close out crazy games. They've been in a few where, hey, they know when to get the defensive pressure on the Pacers, right? You saw Drew Holiday late on Halliburton. You saw Derek White pressuring the other guards. So they just picked the right time to get defensive, and that was really good. Jaylen Brown with 26, Tatum with 36, Holiday with a big 28. I mean, that was huge. Al Horford also had a clutch 3 in the corner. White given 15, and that's just fine. He's not the main guy, but he's been really good this postseason. Like the first 7 games he was on, I think, with like more than 20 points. He was amazing. They are missing Porzingis. They would be a little bit beefier inside. I don't know if he'll play this series. You hope he does, because everybody will be at
saying possibly game 4.
Okay. You hope, though, that you get everybody at full strength, just to see how the Pacers would, how Miles Turner would deal with him. And then you also have Al Horford. So you really have to get big in that way. I don't know if the Pacers can do it, because they rely on their guards and forwards. So that's going to be tough. But we'll see if the Pacers, if they met their match, because you know how they outlasted the Knicks. Before that, they were able to take a Giannis-less Bucks out, and they show energy, greatly. But the thing is, the Celtics have been, they're different. All year they've been great, that 67 or 64 win total this year, and they just outshoot you. And if they don't, they'll have bad game 2s like they did against Miami and Cleveland. Remember, they lost both game 2s of series so far. So look out. Maybe we'll have a game 2 surprise in Indiana. But I think for the series, I'll go with Boston. I just think they have more postseason experience on their side, and then they have more control of games. I think that's the case. So I think Boston will come out with it, but I could see Indiana winning game too.
I have Boston as well for the fact of if there's ever a time or a year for this core that we have watched grow, learn how to win, try to get it done in the playoffs, get to a finals but lose to Golden State, this is their time to finally do it in Boston with Tatum and Brown and all the cast and crew around those two stars and a coach in Joe Mazzulla, who again kind of got forced James into a very pickle of a situation with what was going on with Ime Udoka before he was, obviously suspended and canned, and then Joe Mazzulla takes over, and he's the guy right now who has the Celtics up 1-0 and him, pushing the right levers with putting guys on certain players as things do go on. But I certainly agree, though, about the Celtics winning this game because of that experience, though. But again, Indiana, young team learning how to win, though. And it came, and again, like I said, James, like I said, it came to ahead at the worst possible time with them, again, having those 3 turnovers. And again, the Celtics win 133-120 over Indiana for a game 1 victory. And not just that as well, though, James, Boston's so hard to beat at home, though, too, as well at the same time.
Yeah, raucous crowd always. You heard them late. Indiana, the crowd, though, is really raucous as well. I can't wait till they go to Indiana. It was just like that Knicks series, and it has that same feel, but this time at a different garden.
So again, folks, once more in the East, Boston 133, Indiana 120 to final in OT. Game 1 goes to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. With that, James, starting up shop on Wednesday, the Western Conference Finals, the Dallas Mavericks will take on the Minnesota Timberwolves, who upset the defending champions in a thrilling Series 2. James, I know that you talked about how much Anthony Edwards is your guy. Like he is your he's your guy right now through this postseason, man. And this is a very fun Minnesota team who has brought character. They have brought some pizzazz, a little swag to the table against a veteran-led Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving-led Mavericks ball club. But however, though, James, Target Center might be one of the other toughest buildings to play in right now in the NBA postseason, especially, James, if the Wolves are going to wear their 80s era throwback. Yeah. James, your thoughts on the Western Conference Finals, man? Dallas, Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving against a very fun, energetic, the new kids on the block, man, are now hosting a veteran-led Dallas ball club here. And can this, somewhat Cinderella run for this Minnesota ball club roll on, man? And I think it's going to. I really do.
I don't think any of the experts had these two in the conference finals.
Oh, hell no.
Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets, Suns. I had the Suns winning it all, by the way. Yikes. I'm generally really, really happy for the Timberwolves and their fans. It's been 20 years since they've been at this height. I think it was 20 years to the date they made the Western Conference Finals.
May 19th of 2004.
Yeah, where they beat the Kings, and then 20 years later, they defeat the Nuggets at a Game 7 in Denver, which is very, very hard to do. I don't care what the Nuggets don't have. That's really tough to do. I'm really happy for the coach, Chris Finch, despite his injury. He's still there on the side. He's still encouraging everybody. And he said something today. He mentioned the league is wide open, so why not us? And I love whenever a unsung team says, why not us? I mean, that was the whole slogan for the Orlando Magic in 95. I know they didn't complete the deal.
For Red Sox.
Yeah. That too, being down 3-0 in that case. But I love when the underdog has that mentality. But, the players, though. But the players, they believe. And it starts with Edwards talking his stuff. But believing in themselves, believing in the others around you. You have Mike Conley kind of controlling everything. Letting everybody know where they're supposed to be. You have the 2 tall guys in there. When they said it wouldn't work with Cat and Gobert. and now everybody has to adjust to them, and that has never been the case until pretty much this year, where he said, "Oh God, we have to cover Edwards. We have to cover. Don't leave Conley open in the corner for three. Don't let Cal Anderson do a slow mo thing. Don't let the bench go off." And then they forget about the two centers in the middle like that. It's kind of a throwback, and that's why I like them. They play the best defense, I think, out of everyone. Stats would say that they held in the Nuggets losses. They held them under 100 points, which is great too, and that's a rarity. And like I said, I was hoping in the playoffs the scores would be lower, and God willing, they have been. And it just shows you the Timberwolves are just amazing in that way. Ant has been amazing when he needed to be, knocking down clutch threes. But also Conley Jr., you got to feel for him. He's I think he went to the conference finals once with Memphis, so he's back. He really wanted that game 7 in Denver, and he got it. So I'm really happy for them, and they seem like legit, contenders. But the Dallas Mavericks are in their way, and they're slightly below the Timberwolves in a way, because it's kind of an on and off switch with Luka and Kyrie, the dynamic where it's like, hey, we don't have enough basketballs for each or whatever. But if Luka has those, bad quarters, Kyrie could see that and take over the game. Now, that's cool and all, but they didn't have the help like they did before, or the cast just wasn't as good. They picked up 2 guys at the trade deadline, Gafford and then PJ Washington Jr., who all of a sudden has importance in playing in the NBA. He didn't experience that in Charlotte, but guess what? He's done so well there. You still have Tim Hardaway Jr., who you can kind of rely on when healthy. You also have the other big there, the rookie Derek Lively, who they're bringing back Lob City, Luke and Kyrie with those 2 bigs. It's been so amazing to see that. Just whenever Luka comes down, oh, here you go. When Kyrie goes around, oh, here you go, to those 2 bigs. It's been amazing to see that. How they've been able to dissect defenses, especially OKC's. You saw that last series with OKC where they didn't have enough bigs. All they had was Holmgren to try to guard the other 2 bigs or whatever big was in there, and it just wasn't happening. My guess, the Timberwolves win maybe in 7. See, I got in trouble. One of these shows we did where, we were looking at the standings. You went with the young guys. I went with the older guys. Said, don't forget about them. And now we have this. And now we have a battle of like the elder statesmen, and then the young crew of Minnesota, along with Gobert, and Conley. But the stars are younger. I think it comes down to the bench of each team, and then comes down to defenses of both teams. I mean, they're historically been great on defense, both teams. And it's been wrapped up in the playoffs, and that's been amazing. But I'm going to say Minnesota in 7, and it'll be a party there, and there's been great weather, I think, in Minneapolis. So it'll be perfect. I don't know. I can never trust Dallas, but I think it's almost like Connor McDavid with the Oilers, where you're just hoping Luka gets to that point. And then, okay, he's here now. He finally got the first round. He finally got past the second round. Got to get him to the NBA Finals if you want to compare him to Giannis, if you want to compare him to Jokic. They're already behind in MVPs, but they're already ahead, excuse me. But right now he's there with Booker. He's above Trae Young. Yeah, he's above Trae Young. He's just got to get up to that upper echelon, and God willing, he does that. But and also one more thing, the trade deadline came and passed, of course. But when it did, the 2 teams that got better are now in the conference finals: the Indiana Pacers and the Dallas Mavericks. It's just funny how all that works. And then you have to get lucky with not as many injuries. and they're both here, and it's both amazing to see. They are both underdogs though in the series, which is, I guess appropriate.
And one small nugget from the press row hosts of press row here on Coast to Coast is in-season tournament magic. I mean, the Pacers get to the final of the IST. Now here they are. But Rick Carlisle, though, James, in all seriousness, though, I heard him on Sports Center on Monday evening leading up to game one saying we used that in-season tournament final to kind of boost us and get us back on track. Like they used their run throughout the IST to kind of, in a way, figure things out back in November, back in December, and then ultimately getting to the IST final. Yeah, they lost to the Lakers, but still, like, maybe weird foreshadowing, but now here they are, though, going from the in-season tournament where they really weren't playing their best basketball, but they, in a way, have used that tournament to kind of get themselves not to the NBA finals right now, but they're in the conference finals, though. And more importantly, James, refreshing, though, as well, to see that we have some new faces. We know about Boston, but again, Minnesota's in there. The Mavericks are back. Again, Indiana's in there as well. So again, it's going to shape out to be a great final or a conference final run, I should say, with Indiana and Boston. Again, the Celtics won on Tuesday. We'll have game one between the Wolves and the Mavericks from Minneapolis on Wednesday. And I'm also going to agree with James with Wolves in 7 over the Mavericks. With that, James, to the ice and the Stanley Cup playoffs. We are also now in the conference finals of the Stanley Cup postseason. They will kick things off on Wednesday with game number 1 in the Eastern Conference. The Florida Panthers, who again, for the second straight year, knock out the Boston Bruins. They'll take on the President's Trophy winning number 1 overall seed, the New York Rangers, at the Garden in New York at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern on ESPN or ESPN Plus. And then on Thursday will be the Western Conference Finals on TNT at 5:30 Pacific time between the Edmonton Oilers and the number 1 Western Conference seed, the Dallas Stars, which, by the way, James, will mark the first time in 25 years that we will have a team win it. That a team will win the Stanley Cup for the first time since I believe a team will win their first championship since I believe 91, roughly. At this rate, again, both these clubs, though, or 3 of the 4 clubs have won a championship in their own right. Again, the Rangers last winning it when I was born 30 years ago. The Panthers got to the final a couple times, but never won it, though. And also the Oilers and Stars also looking to break their cup droughts as well. So, James, let's start, man, though, out east. Okay, the Rangers, again, number 1 seed, President's Trophy winner, only 8 times, James, since they have awarded the President's Trophy for the overall number 1 seed for the best overall record across the league. Only 8 times in history since 85, 86, when the award was first given out, has the team that has won the President's Trophy won both the President's Trophy and also have won the Stanley Cup. The Florida Panthers, again, are a roadblock in for the Boston Bruins. They're back in the conference final again, starting up shop, as mentioned on Wednesday. Then, James, out west, the Dallas Stars, who I again said after they blew that 3-0 lead against Colorado, were bona fide playoff chokers. But Peter DeBoer, man, he's got some sort of weird magic that he's got. He has not lost a Game 7 in his career coaching a Game 7. I believe he's now 8-0 after, again, they made that comeback in round over Colorado to now get to the conference finals. And, of course, James, we just brought him up, though. But, again, the Oilers are now back in the conference final for the second time in 30 years, or a second time in 3 years, I should say. They held off Vancouver. Thankfully, James, no riots broke out. And also, I think Rick Tocchet, the head coach of the Canucks, though, really said, though, I think a very strong quote after his team lost, so that city should be proud of what that team did this year by going from, middle part of the division to the number 1 team in the Pac division this past season. But James, let's go back out east, though, man. Florida taking on the Rangers. James, what do you see here, man? This New York team, man, this literally, man, could be a repeat of when they won the Cup when I was born 30 years ago at this rate. We have, I think there was a stat I saw that, like, I think there was a stat that I recall seeing that Chris Kreider's on some big, like, franchise record for points right now at this rate. Like, it's right in line with Mark Messier right now. And, of course, James, Florida, again, very good feel-good story. Again, a non-traditional hockey market, man, is back in the conference final for the second straight season. And, again, led by a lot of, like, nobodies. A lot of, journeyman veterans like Connor Verhage and Brandon Montour, formerly of the Anaheim Ducks. Again, they're riding, their goalie right now. But I just think, though, James, New York, like I said, though, James, about the Celtics, if there was a time for the New York Rangers to win the Stanley Cup, it's in 2024. This
Yeah,
core, though, has been together for so many years together. Their goalie, Igor Shesterkin, is riding a, absolute wave of momentum right now. Their offense is firing on all cylinders. They really, don't, and you really can't give them power play chances either because they usually cash in 9.9 times out of 10. So, James, what do you like or dislike out here? Again, Florida versus New York conference finals for the NHL out east getting underway on Wednesday.
yeah, I'm definitely gonna be watching both. A lot of the names I don't know, but a lot of the names I've been looking at, and wondering what their role is, and it's been fun. For the Rangers, man, they had a hell of a series with the Carolina Hurricanes. I was watching that attentively, and it just seemed like whatever the Rangers or whatever the Carolina Hurricanes tried to do, the Rangers would stop it basically.
There was always an answer.
Yeah, that's what I felt like with the Rangers. With the Panthers, it's amazing. Maybe they're just better together. There's just no Eagles. There's no Stars. We're just gonna do it together. That's almost like what the Hurricanes, what they've been building up lately.
Agreed.
Since 2020, 2019, it almost feels that way. So you have all the stars aligned for the Rangers, and then you just have this Panther team that, again, they're just better together. And for me, I feel like the Rangers should win this series, but I wouldn't be shocked if Panthers just take it. But man, I'll tell you what's been a killer this whole postseason, the power plays, the infractions that would happen, and then some of the calls have just been crazy, and how important those power plays are. And we saw that in the Vancouver series. So,
man, that was a struggle watching Vancouver. Yes.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So I think the Rangers will take it. It's almost like the Celtics series in a way where you're like, oh, don't let the.
Yes, that's literally what I said. Is like it feels like I said, if there's ever a time for the Celtics to win the NBA title, it feels like 2024 because of the core that they have in place with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Same with the New York Rangers. If there's ever a time to win it, it's 30 years after Mark Messier guarantees that they're going to go back to the Garden and win Game 7 over the Canucks in 30 years ago. And now, but again, though, this group though of Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, Adam Fox, Igor Shesterkin, and a lot of these other glue guys like a Vincent Trocheck. No one really knew much about him. He used to be in Carolina. He's been like their guy on the power play throughout their first two rounds of the postseason. Other guys who have chipped in as well that aren't the big sexy names of like Zibanejad and, like a Will Cooley, for example, has been out there, I believe, as well, kind of being, a guy who's been out there. Matt Rempe, of course, has been better known for, beating the tar out of guys. He's like 6'9", and he's just out there being a goon. But there's a lot of glue guys, though, James, that aren't named, Zibanejad or Panarin, that go out there and they kind of get a lot of the dirty work done. And I would say the same thing, though, as well, though, James, about Florida, like a Matthew Tkachuk. He scores, but he's also a bit of a bopper. He's a goon. He's a guy who's going to get in your face. But then they open up chances for Alexander Barkov or for Connor Verhage, I should say, or other guys who, again, are a lot of glue guys. Like, this is more a series, I think, James, that's about the stars of both the Panthers and the Rangers. But it's also, I also feel like it's also about glue guys, but also I love, though, James, that you brought up about the coaching philosophy. Paul Maurice has been a long-time journeyman NHL coach, man, and he lets his team play. I think I recall a moment when they were on the verge, of winning Game 6 in Florida. I think he, during a media break, chewed out his team with a lot of foul language. And that right there got those guys woke up, and I think they went on like a 4 or 5 straight. I think they put 5 in by the Boston goalie, and he kind of made a funny quip in the post-game press conference about that wake-up moment, like, they needed a little bit of like a kick in the rear end. But that's a coach, though, James, that knows how to get the best out of his guys come playoff time. And I think it's that it might boil down to that, though, but it's going to be, but James, you're right, though. Power play efficiency is going to be what makes or breaks this series. And I think it's going to break it maybe or make or break it more for Florida. Can they capitalize if New York goes into the box? Or will the Rangers continue to do what they've been doing, and that is them capitalizing on the opposition's mistakes, though, too?
That Florida series, I know they play in Sunrise, but that'll be fun because you'll have all those Ranger fans coming down for every game. Those games are going to be wild. So I'm going to say the Rangers. For the Western
Same.
Conference, I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with the Oilers. They have their great scoring options. You know, McDavid, Draisaitl. I forget
Leon
his name.
Draisaitl.
Leon Draisaitl. Close. You also have Evan Bouchard. I remember him. He had 2 assists in that game 7. In that second period in which they scored their 3 goals and barely held on. They just seem to have it all. And again, the one thing I know about them, they made that coaching change, and ever since then
Yes.
they've taken off. It's been really good, and it's just funny how, again, like I talked about with the new voice in the locker room earlier, sometimes you have that, and it just brings
pays
everything
off.
well. And I believe that's going to help them. But the thing is, Dallas. It's just funny. The last time that I've been to a hockey game, they were in last place, and the Ducks were going to playoffs, and now they've switched ever since 2018 or 19. I don't know much about them, but they've been really good as of late, but they never got to this level. Like, I don't know if they've ever made the conference finals this decade, but
They did, I believe, in the year I think the COVID shutdown resumption season they made it, but lost to Tampa Bay.
It seems like everybody got in that year almost, and they just put it all together. So I really don't remember that, but they also have stars there. They have some enforcers as well. I believe. Oh God, the former Duck is there. I just forget whom it is, but they have a really tough team in Dallas, and their home crowd. You know, I didn't really think Dallas would have a hockey crowd or a hockey town, but they're starting to put it together. But I just feel like the Oilers are on that streak. I feel like they're on that streak to win. It'll take 7 games. It'll tire them out, but I think the Oilers get it. I'm trying to look up the stats, but I've seen the Stars have been good all damn year. 52
Number 1
wins.
seed out west, yeah.
Yeah, I can see like they're really, really good. But the fact that they won that game, or they defeated Colorado like they did, that was for me not really I guess it was kind of a surprise not knowing what was going on. But you figure Colorado didn't have as much as Dallas did. And one more thing, you mentioned the crowd in Vancouver, the fans. I still remember watching that Game 7 in 2011 against Boston.
They're making a 30 for 30 about that, by the way.
Okay, I should watch that.
June 4th, I think it comes out on ESPN Plus.
Because I remember just watching, I think online or whatever, the destruction and chaos after, and I didn't expect it to happen this time. So it was good to hear that. Maybe the expectations just weren't high enough, or it wasn't a Stanley Cup final Game 7. Maybe that's why I didn't bring up ancient feelings. But they got some winners definitely on Dallas. But man, I gotta go with who I think. I have Oilers and Rangers for the final, and I'm trying to remember who I picked. I want to say Rangers over the Oilers, I think. And I think I said in 6 games. So yeah, I got to go with the Rangers.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rangers in the Eastern Conference. As much as I would love to see Florida get back there again, I think it's just so hard, though, to contain all the offensive artillery that the Rangers have again. Like I said, with Zibanejad and Kreider, Adam Fox can start the power play without any issues whatsoever. And then Igor Shesterkin, who has been like invincible until he kind of was brought back down to earth by the Hurricanes in the conference second round, though. But I still like the Rangers, though. And out east, though. But out west, though, I'm very torn, though, James, about out west, though. Like, I would love to see Edmonton. I'd love to see Dallas. I think I would love to see Dallas because I think that they have more veteran guys who have not made it to the final or ever won the title, like Jamie Benn, for example, Joe Pavelski, former member of the San Jose Sharks. You know, a lot of veteran guys who've been around the block who are still playing the game at a high level. But I think, though, I got to go with James, I agree with you. It's the Mark Messier Bowl. It's going to be New York versus Edmonton, but I have the Rangers, just like they did when I was born 30 years ago in 1994, winning it all to keep the Canadian curse of them not winning the Cup since 93 alive and well. And I will probably go Rangers. I would probably go Rangers and, man, I really want them to win it at home. So I would probably go 5 or 7 at this rate. So I'm going to go with New York as well, though, to win it. Just because I was born in 94. I just turned 30 last Saturday. They won it 30 years ago in 94. So I'll take New York over Edmonton as well. Jack Braun wanted to write in. He says, man, I was so super let down by the Bruins. Really thought they would win game 6, send it back to Florida with Florida on its back for game 7. But boy, I was wrong. He also says, give me the Rangers in a super tight 6-game series, and Connor McDavid and the Oilers finally break out and take out the Dallas Stars. This has got to be McDavid's moment and his time, just like Callan brought up about Tatum and the Celtics. And I think, Jack, it goes both ways. I think it more goes with Edmonton again, because McDavid can't really be grouped right now with Crosby or Ovechkin yet because they have the championship ring. McDavid does not yet. He's got the MVPs and the Hart trophies and the Calder trophy and the Rocket Richard trophies, but he just does not have that Stanley Cup yet, or even for that matter, even a conference championship yet either at this rate. So I definitely, Jack, agree with you at this rate. Jack Ferber says that the Vancouver crowd seemed tamer this time around than it was in the past. Do you guys believe that it had to do with the fact that Vancouver has not been in the postseason for a while? I think, Jack, it goes to what James said in regards to just for the simple fact of
it wasn't the final.
It wasn't the final. It was a second round loss in game 7, where honestly, Jack, I mean, it was a pretty embarrassing actually watching how Vancouver played, minus the power play struggles. But they just could not find a way to get anything going. And like the shots on goal after one period is 23-4.
Yeah, I saw that.
You're not winning a lot of hockey games, whether it's inline, roller, street hockey, quad hockey or ice hockey. You're not winning a lot of games, only getting 4 shots on goal as well. And Jack further writes in, speaking of that Canadian curse, didn't someone on this network post a video declaring the Canucks would win the Stanley Cup last year and this season? Sorry, just had to throw that out there. Ha, ha, ha. Same guy who also is still drooling over his boy, Macklin Celebrini, who put a TikTok out, then deleted it, sent it to me for some reason, and I saved it, of him ripping Celebrini for wearing a long-sleeve T-shirt at a hockey game. Like, does this guy, not know anything about ice hockey, Mr. Gonzales and Mr. Braun?
That video it really shocked the hell out of me because he says stupid things in the past. But this was just. I
mean, are you really that shocked though?
No, definitely not. But it's like, who cares what the dude's wearing? And Owen Wilson was there, but I guess
wow,
he didn't know who that was. Yeah, he didn't know who that was. But I was shocked to see Owen there. But yeah, they were showing the first pick with his friend there, and I thought, okay, fine. I thought Isaiah was going to have an issue with him cheering for his hometown team.
That was more of what I was concerned about, but no, Jack. He literally criticized the potential number 1 pick, Macklin Celebrini, for wearing a long sleeve T-shirt to a ice hockey game.
That's just
a keyword before is ice.
Definitely. That's just trash.
So again, Jack, like we usually say, don't believe anything that you hear from our Kicking It correspondent, who is only allowed on that show, not on any other program on this network.
That's why he's
With
not
that,
on here.
James, we will segue, my man, quickly to the WNBA as we approach the midnight hour here on this now Wednesday morning. Okay, James, I think it's time that we cool the jets. We don't hit the panic button yet about the Indiana Fever being over to start the season and how Callan Clark has struggled mightily through the first 4 games, but she has gradually improved, though, over these 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
James, any thoughts you want to pass along about, a lot of these, basketball pundits out here and fans who are kind of in a way, James, like losing their minds after just 4 games for Callan Clark in Indiana?
It's been a crazy first week. She's been up and down, mostly down before. She finally, displayed her displeasure yesterday. That Connecticut Sun defense, like we saw last season in the playoffs, they were
Woo!
all over her. They would take
Man.
either a double team or someone would, take turns guarding her 94 feet. It was
DGA Carrington, San Diego zone was all over her on Monday. It was crazy.
and I was watching some of that too. It was just a busy sports day, but it just seemed like, okay, I think these media people, they don't like her in the first place for so many reasons, but she's not playing the same competition like she did in the Big Ten and then in women's college basketball. These are, more grown up women. These are more grown up players. They're built bigger. They move you. They foul you without fouling. They're different, and you saw that yesterday or Monday when they faced the Connecticut's Sun, and they had a shot to win that game too. Did the Fever, but there's going to be growing pains.
The final play too.
That was an issue. There's going to be growing pains, but it seems like she won't get the benefit of the doubt, honestly, just because of the hype surrounding her. It's almost, I don't want to, because she doesn't have that arrogance like Christian Laettner did. I mean, that was way beyond, anybody's liking. When Christian Laettner came into the NBA, there's already a target on him. With Callan Clark, it's not really a target, but it's a spotlight, and everybody's just trying not to get embarrassed by her. She has found some lanes. She has made some, her logo threes. I saw one Monday. But the team, you got to remember, it's, basically another first-round pick, and then they try to make some moves, but the roster isn't as deep as, other teams. So it's just going to be a struggle for her in the Fever all year. You hope somehow they can, slide into a playoff spot. But I wouldn't doubt if it happened, if it didn't happen, excuse me. But there's just a lot of pressure on her just because of what she did and what she took away from Angel Reese. It's all going to come ahead when they face Chicago. I mean, that is going to be a war when you really think about it.
And that will probably be the most viewed game probably for the league, which, by the way, a quick press row stat. Per Front Office Sports, the WNBA only had maybe 1 to 3 games in their 23, over the last 23 years. Only 3 games reached over certain millions of viewers. They've already broken that record of over 1.5, 1.7 million viewers on TV that quickly with Callan Clark. But more than anything else, though, James, I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but I'm going to say it. I don't think I have seen one particular athlete who the general population wants to see fail more and more with every loss and every missed shot than Callan Clark. And I would probably say, James, and this may be ludicrous, other than LeBron James's rookie year with Cleveland, that I have not seen any particular player in basketball where people applaud them failing and losing and not making shots, because I know about the hype and stuff, James, and all that sort of stuff, though. But at the end of the day, though, when you're just now beginning to hop on this WNBA bandwagon, I would hope you would go back and not James, but like people viewing this, go back and like research and watch some old games of like how other rookies fared in their first season. Like I know
Yeah.
Candace Parker won Rookie of the Year and League MVP in '08. They didn't win a championship until 2016 in Los Angeles. It took her 8 years to get her first ring before she won 2 more with Chicago and 1 more with Vegas. It took Diana Taurasi 3 years because the Mercury tanked a couple of times during the course of her time in Phoenix. It took Sue Bird about 7 years to win her first ring. It's not going to come overnight. Like James said, though, and also, James, I love that you brought up, though, about how the college game and the pro game is so different. That's exactly what Diana Taurasi said during the Final Four, and she got crucified by all these, new casual fans who thought that the criticism was unfair. It's almost like this is what she was telling you. It's not going to be that easy. But I also, James, just think, though, the criticism is just unfair. Again, I don't think I have seen an athlete that the general population wants to see fail and lose every game that she plays in right now than Caitlin Clark. James, is that maybe true, or am I just totally off base?
No, it's exactly what we're all thinking. The thing is with LeBron James, what I felt like back then in 03, 04 is that you knew what team he was with, and those Cavaliers players didn't like him from the start. I can remember the interviews with Darius Miles, Ricky Davis, Jadrinas Ugaskis, Carlos Boozer, saying like, hey, you know what? We're not just going to let him come in and take over. We're the veterans, and they weren't even veterans. Carlos Boozer was a second-year player that's rookie year of LeBron. But it was the ignorance of those players and be like, okay, we're not going to let this rookie do what he does, let him do what he want to do. I don't see any of that with Caitlin Clark. I think everybody totally sees that, hey, it's a roster that, she's not going to be good with because they're probably going to lose. I think there was a hot mic on, and Clark told the coach of the Fever saying, hey, the players aren't lining up right or something where I can't create. I think it was something like that. I couldn't understand it, but it's just going to be those growing pains. And the only thing, there was expectations for LeBron, but it wasn't like, okay, hey, they're not going to beat the Pistons of that era. They're not going to beat the Pacers. Right. They're not going to beat the established teams. With the WNBA how it is now, they're not, the Fever aren't going to beat the Liberty. They're not going to beat the Mystics even. Maybe
Connecticut.
Connecticut. As you saw, Connecticut came in there and said, "Hey, we have one job and one job only to go in there and just make sure Clark doesn't go off. And if she goes off on a break, make sure somebody gets on her." But that whole Eastern Conference, it's like, okay, Chicago's there and they're still pretty good. It's just different. I think it's just two different people. And then I'm not going to say why I think a lot of the media doesn't like Caitlin Clark, but it's who she is. I think that's why too. And it offends certain people in the WNBA. That's just what I think. I mean, I might be arrogant as hell and ignorant as hell, but the fact what she looks like, who she's with, what she did in college, and I think she's maybe scaring some people off because, well, no one really shoots threes from that far in the WNBA before. No one's brought that Stephen Curry type of play there. And also, you don't want to get embarrassed by a rookie, and especially someone that looks like her. And I think the Connecticut Sun basically said, hey, we're not going to let that happen. And we're going to be the first ones to tell her, hey, this is not going to go down here. You have to get stronger mentally and physically. And then another thing too, I was going to mention WNBA and Cameron Brink. It's amazing how, she's on all these advertisement deals. Caitlin Clark just got Wilson as well, the basketball company.
Earlier on Tuesday morning.
But Cameron Brink has been everywhere. She threw the first pitch out of a Dodger game with a Spark teammate. when have you seen that before? I mean, I don't remember Lisa Leslie or Candace Parker doing that. I might be
That
wrong.
all that came to fruition after Magic Johnson and Mark Guggenheim bought the club in 2015-16. I remember covering that story when the ownership group like upping abandoned the club after 2014. I was a part of a petition campaign to help keep the team in LA. It garnered like over like 1,700 signatures across the sport, which was just utterly insane. But literally, like after Magic and Mark bought the Sparks, they kind of began doing a lot of co-branding or like those nights with the Dodgers.
Wow. So that's good to hear. And then you see just how these young ladies from college, there's like 3 or 4 of them that everybody can name right now, that are starring for their teams. And it's pretty great to see. I do feel bad for the older players not to have this kind of shine, but it just shows you how much hype and how many different cameras, how much different coverage the game has now. How there's no more what is it? No more charter flights. It's strictly um,
no more commercial flights. They're now
commercial.
flying
Sorry,
charter as of
charter.
Tuesday. Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Never mind. And it's great to see that too, because it's like, hey, this is a professional league. It's not a minor league. They should have the things that the NBA has. And it's good
They're
that
adding
there's
2 teams.
San Francisco and Toronto. I want to say
Yes, within the next 2 years. San Fran enters in 25. Toronto will enter in 26.
Valkyries. I think was San
Golden State
Francisco's
Valkyries. Yes.
Valkyries. There we go. And I got to give a shout out, Cameron.
Right in line. It's right in line with the Warriors brand, but it's the female Warriors of, I believe, of Norse mythology, I believe, which is the Valkyries, and that's what they're going to be called in San Francisco.
That's what that is. Thank you. Yeah, Cameron Brink had a big block tonight. They were playing Washington, did the Sparks at the Pyramid in Long Beach, and I just saw she had a big block, and the Sparks won their first game. Mystics are 0-4, I guess. Do you think Ella Della Don will ever get traded?
Man, it's a sticky situation, sadly, for EDD, just for the fact of, she got that ring finally in 2019. I believe that they won it. But, she has had a lot of personal strife in her career. I think if anyone doesn't know her story, she was committed to going to UConn, but her sister Lizzie got really sick, I think. And I think she also suffers from, I believe, either MS or some muscular issue, I believe. And she chose to leave UConn and went to Delaware. She was a Fighting Blue Hen and played for her hometown university. Was drafted by the Chicago Sky in 2013 after Griner and Diggins were drafted. They got to the finals in 2014, but they ran into a 29-win buzzsaw of a team in the Phoenix Mercury who had Taurasi and a second-year Griner and Deladon's back, which has been giving her so many problems her whole career, just would not let her play. They got to the conference, to the finals, but were, with ease knocked out by the Mercury to lose the championship. Then after her time in Chicago, I think there was a little bit of some like issues with the front office in her, I want to say, where she wanted out. She ended up going to Washington, and then she ended up going there and being with them and then winning the championship. I think, James, her not being around right now is kind of in a way hurting Washington a little bit because of her size and her ability to play, her position, and her not being there right now is really, I think, a huge hole for that team.
Yeah, I was just wondering that, and I did notice the Fever. They're on the West Coast now. Wednesday they'll be in Seattle, and then Friday back at the Crypto.com arena, and on Ion Network on 7 p.m. I think. I'll be sure to watch that if I'm not at the Angel game. I really want to see, the first 2 draft picks go against each other, Clark and Brink. I think that would be a tremendous matchup. The thing is, too, really quick, you see Cameron Brink and you see rookies come in any sport where maybe they need to bulk up a little bit to get, not get pushed around in the key. Do you think Cameron Brink would have to do that eventually?
Yeah, and you know what, James, that'll come a time like we were talking about with Clark and the fever is that, once these kids kind of grow into their bodies and they get, I think acquainted with the WNBA game, the travel, the scheduling, they're all going to be fine. I really do think so. One quick update, folks, from the Chicago Sky. Camila Cardoso, who's been out for the first part of the season because of a shoulder problem, per ESPN, she is due back to make her debut on June 1st, I believe, per ESPN.com. Again, she's been out with a shoulder problem. Again, Angel Reese has been crushing it, though, so far without Camilla right now helping out with Chicago at this rate. But so far, I think, James, it's been a great start to the season, despite maybe the fever not really hitting their stride yet. Again, they're learning right now. But I think just more than anything else, though, James, I'm just very thrilled, though, as a lifelong women's basketball and women's sports fan, seeing so much attention. Now, whether it's good or bad attention, I think it's always good, though, when you're being talked about in some capacity for a league like the WNBA with so much, especially this year, James, so much hype around the team or around the league, I should say.
Yeah, I've even noticed that someone was talking about the Fever and their future on First Take today, and I just saw it recently. But you really never saw that talk on First Take. It was always something else. It was always that one sport that they would talk about. Never get into baseball. Always get into the NBA playoffs or something Lakers or KD, wanting to trade elsewhere, whatever the case was. But this time it's like, man, you actually have storylines. And like I said, though, I feel bad for like the women that played before, like Tarasi and Bird,
for sure.
that didn't really get the coverage as much, but they were champions and they played the game better. But something this league needed that boost, and I'm pretty happy to see that. This summer now, I'll be sure to tune in more than I used to, especially for the Clark Watch, and then Cameron Brink with the Sparks, and then you mentioned Chicago with
Yes.
I forget her name. She's coming back. The center you mentioned,
Cardoso, yeah.
she'll come back, and Reese, and that's going to be a very tough team to go against. You have, when they play Connecticut, there's going to be some sparks flying, I think. That will be a very, very physical game. The other thing I saw about Angel Reese, you mentioned about, more opportunities for the women, and, with Clark and Brink getting sponsorships. Angel Reese, I think, bought a women's soccer team in Washington, D.C., or she's a part of a group. And I just think that's a big move. You would never hear about that. That's a LeBron move in a way. That's amazing for someone to have that power straight out of college with the NILs, and they continue that in their professional career. The whole thing about Caitlin Clark is like, oh, well, she only makes this much. She would have made more if she stayed in college. But it just shows you there's opportunity for, everyone. But hopefully the veterans get something out of that too.
Yeah, I would hope so as well. And going forward, this is going to be a great season. It's already off to a great start again. The announcement of the Golden State WNBA franchise, they recently got their name. The Golden State Valkyries, the announcement of the Toronto franchise will play at the Coca-Cola Coliseum about a few blocks away from Scotiabank Arena where the Raptors play in Toronto for the 14th team. Charter flights are now a thing. We're off to a good start with the season with certain ball clubs right now at this rate. Some quick comments here before we get to our off-the-board segment. We wrap up here for the day/morning. Jack is asking, is there any chance I can get a full reimbursement from this network on the Johnny Rockets meal that I just dropped in shock hearing this? Are you freaking kidding me? That guy ripped him for that. OMG.
Well, Johnny Rockets is open right now.
I love Johnny Rockets.
No, I know, but the hour is at night.
I know it's 12:20 in the morning.
Jack must work at Johnny Rockets and got the leftovers from the back of the house, and he came home to watch this, and boom, there goes his late dinner.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, Jack. I mean, man, I think the closest Johnny Rockets to me is Knott's Berry Farm, I want to say. But yes, Jack, that really happened. And I have the video proof. It will be shown on air on Thursday, I believe. If not, maybe next Tuesday when we're back on here on C2C at night, just to kind of, hear the utter embarrassment. It might actually be shown on Kicking It actually on Thursday, for all that I know. Jack also says people need to absolutely calm the hell down about Caitlin Clark. She'll be fine and is gradually improving. Like you mentioned, Cal, and the team sucks, sadly. And also, do not forget, though, she literally came off playing
Yes.
a intense college season 3 weeks ago. So for her not to be at her best had to be expected because of the fatigue factor. I mean, I remember Candace Parker telling me that, James, in that interview I talked about last time we were on air here on May 7th, was literally you play for the national title, you win the damn thing. Like a week later, you're drafted.
Oh.
A day later, you're going to camp to start training camp. And literally by Callan McClurg's birthday, 2008, she's playing in her first WNBA game.
Has there been some women, Callan, that said, you know what, I'm going to start next season? Has there been anybody who has done that? I know it wouldn't be the smartest thing, but it'd be the most rest.
Yeah, not that I know of, honestly, because I know that Candace Parker had the chance, I think. Maybe I'm getting it wrong, but I think because I know that she missed time for her knee, I think her freshman season. Then I believe she had a shoulder problem later in her career, but she kind of played through. Like for 3 years, she played through a shoulder problem until 2010, I think. And I think by the time she won her first natty in 2007, she said, no, I'm going to come back and play one more year. Like, I think she got her fourth year in 2008, but I don't know if there's been someone who's said no thanks to the league yet. But that'd be a good thing to maybe, look up and research, honestly.
That's a lot of, they always talk about the NBA players, when they play all the way through June and then they have Olympic trials or the Olympics like you'll see this summer.
Oh.
And then guess what? September, you have to get into training. October, September training camp is right there. And then October the season begins.
Preseason games. Then by late October, you got tip-off of the regular season.
So I guess everybody goes through it, but it's not as strenuous.
Jack also asked, are you guys worried at all about Caitlin injuring her ankle in their last game? I'd say, Jack, very, 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 very mild concern, though. Just for the fact, though, like you said, though, man, fatigue factor is catching up, or could be catching up, though, after what she's gone through the last roughly 3 to 5 weeks.
They need a blowout game.
They need something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, though...
0-4.
Yeah, I mean, 0-4 does not look good in a 40-game season. It does not look great. But also, James, I mean, I just kind of think, though, that if you're the Fever, you kind of are kicking yourself for how you had a chance to win that game and snap this skid. Yeah. And I think just, James, in a way, though, I hate to say it, man, but the Fever and Pacers are in the same boat. They don't know how to close out a game.
Yeah, just the inexperience factor. Yeah. You can put a team together, but there's going to be holes in it.
Definitely, for sure. But I think, again, Jack, with time, they're going to be fine. Again, they may not make the playoffs, but I would love to see them begin to turn a corner eventually. But right now, let Aaliyah Boston and Clark get their chemistry down, and we will go from there. And Jack agrees. Aaliyah Boston had a chance to had a great look to tie the game on Monday. But honestly, sadly, I mean, Dejanay Carrington, San Diego's own. I mean, she might win Defensive Player of the Year at this rate with how she's been locking down a lot of, not just Caitlin, but I mean, she's been locking down some big names already through the first 4 games for Connecticut. But also, I do think, though, a little bit, though, Jack and James, the schedule, though, for the Fever, having to play the Liberty once already, and then the Sun, I think, twice already. Yeah, that's not good to open up your rookie campaign having to play against, Liberty, who made the postseason, or who made the finals last year, and then the Sun, who made it twice in 3 years, roughly. That's a tough welcome to the league right there at this rate, sadly.
That's not fun. Games. We've seen rookies, though, have that, especially in one league. But, yeah, in the NBA, I can remember LeBron's first game, it was against the Kings, and then it kind of fizzled out. Or it wasn't as popular. But as the year went on, the schedule kind of got tougher and more national network games, and I think eventually that'll come up. But the thing is, it's a longer schedule than the NCAA, so that's also a factor for a rookie too. Like in any sport, whenever, especially a minor league baseball player,
Woo.
um, college baseball player, high school baseball player, when they have to play their first year in the majors all the way through, it's like I don't know if I have enough after 60 games or 40 games.
And that, my friends, is why I stopped playing after high school, because of the travel ball years and the high school years. Can't do it anymore. That's why I gave up the sport, playing in it 12 years ago. All right, James. Again, we were sadly, folks, stuck in 45 minutes of torture with technical problems tonight. That's why we got on the air so late on this now Wednesday morning. With that, James, let's now, my man, go off the board for a topic not discussed on the program. My man, what do you got for us?
Okay, so there was something I saw, I believe, on the weekend, and it reminded me, I want to say, of there was a college football program that couldn't continue, but they lost their program or something. It was like Jacksonville State, I want to say. But anyway, it reminded me of that with the Birmingham Southern College baseball program. And they're starting to win in their tournament, their D3 baseball team. And they're shutting down May 31st due to accounting issues and low enrollment. But they advanced to the Super Regionals for Divisional 3. They're called the Panthers, and they will move on to the College World. If they move on to the College World Series, they'll be playing for a school that doesn't exist anymore. I don't know if they will, but it'd be a hell of a story. And I thought that was just very alarming and very, sad to hear for those players. But they're going out with a bang. And it kind of reminds me of Long Beach State men's basketball. Remember
Yes.
this year how Munson, I think, was the coach, and he, said, I think a week before the Big West tournament or something like that, where he said, "Oh, I'm gonna quit" or something like that. At the
I think he got fired, but he was allowed to stay as the head coach till the year ended. He was going to be fired at the end of the season.
Yeah, and then they went on to win the Big West tournament and get into the March Madness, and he's been there forever. I remember Munson for years there, the coach before that too. But it almost reminds me of that, where it's like it's an awkward thing, something's happening wrong, but guess what? You're succeeding somehow through this. It's unfortunate. It always happens in college like this, but never in the pros. I don't know if you know about this, but it's just one of those situations in college sports where it never happens in the pros, and it's
Yep.
just sad for that baseball team.
Yeah, in the time I've been in college athletics, I have had 4 schools shut down operation and never play again. Not like what James is talking about, but 4 schools, though, have shut down or did shut down in the 8+ years I've been doing college athletics. 3 Division II schools shuttered, and then actually all 4 were Division II, I believe. One of them was an NAIA who literally folded up shop here in San Diego. The University of St. Catherine shut down operation in late April with no warning given, and this came a week after they literally told the Golden State Athletic Conference, or the GSAC, that they were ready for the move to the conference next season. And a week later, the news broke at midnight or at 4:00 in the afternoon the following week, that the school was shut down for business and would not reopen. And, students are left high and dry in the dark. And actually, James, the beach volleyball team on the women's side was still playing in the national tournament when the news came out that their school had shut down operation.
It's like a movie situation, and
a movie. I agree.
That's horrible. It's not a good feeling for those players who are still there. It's kind of like reality is hitting us, not only for the seniors but for the others. Let's just try to win the darn thing and get out of here on a good note. But to see that extreme, I don't think it'll ever happen in D1. But like I said, D3, this Birmingham Southern team, something to look out for this College World Series. As that's been wrapping up, I've been watching
Yeah.
the Pac-12, the last installment of that conference.
Last two raw, baby.
And USC is they've advanced and they'll play in hot ass Scottsdale Thursday, I think, against I want to say Oregon. I think it was Oregon. But anyway, yeah, college baseball. I always like watching the softball and the baseball World Series. It's always fun on the way to the road to Omaha is always fun.
Jack has his off the board topic. He says, guys, speaking of college, hey, Cal, do you remember how you said that NIL and the conference realignment would completely wreck the sport? Well, it might be starting as this extremely explosive story about former Florida commit and former ASU and current Georgia quarterback Jaden Rashada is suing Florida for fraud of his NIL contract. He is currently suing Coach Billy Napier and Florida boosters. The suit alleges that Napier called the QB's dad on signing day and said a booster would wire him $1 million if he signed with the Gators, but only got $150,000 in total. Jack, tell you what, my friend, we'll talk about that story on Thursday on Press Row because realignment actually hit my conference over the last week or so in the West Coast Conference. Effective in 2025-2026, Jack, Seattle University and Grand Canyon University are jumping from the WAC to the West Coast Conference to make our conference a 11-school conference effective in 25-26. Now, that again, that does not factor in the fact that we do, in fact, have Oregon State and Wazoo joining us in the conference as affiliate members in certain sports next season. But certainly, Jack, we'll have more about that story, my man, on Thursday because we're well beyond our time limit here. But he is suing them for about $13.56 million. Now, just to kind of clarify real quick, Jack, I'm all in favor of NILs, but realignments, I think, what's going to really kill college sports right now. But NIL, I mean, could be up there too, though, and stuff like that. But I made my thoughts known, though, Jack, on here and on Press Row, though, that I'm all for NIL to, again, I view it more, though, my man, I view it more for the fact of like human being reasons, not for athletic purposes, but like buying lunch at the school cafeteria or at the food court, for example, or getting an Uber or Lyft to work or paying friends back for a night out on the town with drinks, basically. But certainly, Jack, we'll keep an eye on that story. We'll talk about it more on Thursday. James, I'll go off the board real quick and let you know and let everyone else know that I hit 30 on Saturday. In case anyone's curious, this past Saturday, May 18th, I hit 30.
Happy birthday. It only gets worse here for your body. The aches and pains continue. You'll have more.
Tell that to my lower back.
Yeah, I was just about to say your lower back will hurt on a cold morning. No, I think with I don't know. I think it hits everybody different. 30 is kind of a point I think in your life where you kind of have what you wanted to do figured out. It seems you've done that with your jobs, and the continual jobs that you have, the amount that you have, it's not like you're not doing anything. You're doing a lot of things. You're the voices of a lot of people's lives and games. The work that you do is diligent. I think that's far beyond your year of on this earth. The names that you have to read or pronunciate, the Russian names, Czechoslovakian names for hockey is just crazy. I tried to and I can't during these playoff games. So congrats on turning 30. It gets better from here, but you have to be more cautious of who you're with, who you surround it with, and then what you want to do for the rest of your life. You start to think about it more as you pass 30. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I knew I hit 30 when I had brushed my hair today and stared in the mirror and saw like this whole blonde patch, which is my birthmark, just turned gray all of a sudden. So
Mm.
I'm seeing it more here and seeing it and feeling it more in my lower back, but certainly but I mean, literally today, like I'm literally brushing my hair today, and I do like a double take or a triple take, and like, man, this is not good that this is all of a sudden turning gray now all of a sudden. So yes, I hit 30 on Saturday, spent it with a bunch of close friends and family on Saturday at a local Dave and Buster's here and things like that. And all that good stuff as well. And Jack agrees, man. That is awesome that Seattle U is going to join the West Coast Conference. Go Red Hawks! And he lives very close. So yes, Jack, you'll be seeing my University of San Diego Toreros up there in 25-26 for practically every sport, I would think, coming up in a couple of years. And Jack also says, happy birthday, Cal. The Big 3-0, did you have 30 drinks in 30 minutes? No, I actually kept it at bay, actually. I did not do 30 and 30. That was the name, though, of my event, though, was 30 for 30 in regards to turning 30 in 1990 or in 2024, not 1994.
That's another thing, too, about turning 30. You start making better decisions at night.
Yeah, but then again, I still get like that craving for like Jack in the Box at 12:35 in the morning, sadly.
Well, I mean with like alcoholic drinks or
Oh yeah, no,
decisions
like
to
the
be out
actual smart
more.
decisions. Yes,
Yeah.
that part I agree with 100%. Before we cut out of here for the day or morning, I'm sure you folks have been seeing a lot of this being posted on if you follow me on the gram or on Facebook, though. But one of the very cool jobs I get to do this upcoming summer is a brand new upstart men's league for inline hockey or roller hockey. And this is a sport that's obviously that is near and dear to me. Not for the fact of I already do hockey as is with the American Hockey League team here in San Diego. But I grew up, though, along with playing baseball, I also played inline hockey for 4 years in a organized league through the Mission Valley YMCA here in my backyard. And really, I reminisce a lot about it. I miss the game a lot still, but I know I'd be out there and I would probably, be sore for 6 weeks, though. But thanks to my great colleague with the San Diego Gulls of our off-ice officiating crew, Scott Silvas, who is a referee here for the roller hockey leagues here in San Diego, and Josh Fontaine, who I will be having a meeting with on Thursday to talk about the league. But folks, we are, or at least we are starting a new league here in San Diego called the Elite Draft League. So we're going to be having a 10-game schedule with 4 teams, and there's going to be a draft held to draft these teams when everyone tries out on Saturday. However, I hitched an idea over the course of the week, and I've been running a couple of surveys. And then, folks, I am very pleased to announce on this coast to coast airwaves that a podcast called Puck and Roll, voted on by you, the viewers, will be covering all the angles of our new Elite Draft League here in San Diego, California, much like how we covered the Oregon Cougars here on C2C. We'll be having 2 shows at this rate right now planned on Friday, which is the day before our game days on Saturdays, and one on Sunday to recap the action on Saturday. Again, I'm going to be talking to Josh on Thursday to talk more about this. I ran this through upper management with C2C to be able to use the StreamYard account. I'm also trying to get our network as a media partner with some other great content creators who can make some reels for us for highlight packages and stuff like that. And again, James, the hockey scene here in Southern California, again, all began with the Kings in '67. Then when the Ducks came in '93, there's been 3 Stanley Cups won here between Anaheim and LA in '07 with the Ducks, and then the Kings in 12 and 14. And the influx of kids who play the game here now, the amount of California kids who now have gone on to play college hockey or now play in the pros at this rate. And for me, it's special to be able to give back to the community because, again, like I said on here, I think during my 300th game in the AHL or my 400th game when you brought it up on this program is that, a part of my purpose, and this goes to a point from my great friend Shauna Nichols, who's the in-game DJ for the Bucks, in Milwaukee, she always, has told me, that it's important that to find your purpose. And I think my purpose in my announcing life is to give back to the hockey community in San Diego, which is why, you know, I obviously have the AHL, not obviously why, but, the AHL gig is one thing. And then I go out into the community and do some stuff with the goals. But now here in my off season, not only do I get to stay involved with the game and stay sharp for the upcoming, AHL season, but now I can give back my time to this, hockey community here in my hometown, born and raised San Diegan for 30 years, and now be able to give that time back to the EDL and also to the big charity event I do every August. Again, we have a 3-day tournament here, where I get to actually, drink beer on the job, but we have teams who come in from all over the country to our rink in Mira Mesa to play a 3-on-3 beer league tournament, but everyone comes out to connect, see friends, play the game. But also we raise money though for charities. We are raising money, I believe, in 2024 for a veteran foundation that helps put members of our armed forces who have battled PTSD to get them matched with service dogs this year. Last year, we raised over $10,000 for pet adoptions in 2023. Like, we have a purpose to give back to our community in the sport of hockey. And I cannot be any more thrilled to announce that, again, C2C is going to is right now working on a deal to become a media partner for the EDL here in San Diego, the Elite Draft Hockey, or the Elite Draft League. Again, I'll be their in-arena announcer for these games, but I'm going to be also hopefully hosting this podcast for the league on Fridays and Sundays. And James, I'll be up in your neck of the woods, man. We'll be playing all these games up in Escondido at Kit Carson Park by San Pasqual High School.
That's what I just saw right now. That's what I was wondering where it's going to be. So hopefully I can join in and watch some of that. I see it's a 4-team league, Escondido Sports Center, starting in late June. And I have some other friends who I think go there and they play in some other leagues. So I'll be sure to tell them about it. If they don't know about it already, I'll send them the notice about this. I can see it's not just another beer league. It's the Elite Draft League. And I love that the show is the title that it is, Puck and Roll. I thought that was really clever out of the 3 that you gave us to choose from. So yeah, let me know when you. I can see what registration will close on Friday. Tryouts will be Saturday and Saturday at 6 and 7. But the league will start in late June. So, with the Angels probably in last place and with the NBA over and NHL over, I'll be looking for something to do on Saturdays. I think this would be it.
Yeah, and again, just a major thanks again. And one of the things, though, James, I usually talk about, though, too, and again, we are going to get out of here, folks, in a bit here. I got to get to bed and be up for another podcast interview I'm doing at 11 o'clock local time tomorrow morning with a fellow PA announcing colleague of mine. Is that James was just talking about a lot of that sort of stuff, though. And again, thanks, by the way, to all of you viewers out there and those who voted over the past 2 days. We went from like 20 names to 3 to 1 within like 48 hours. So thank you all for voting and for making my life really easy to get a name. And now I have to get a logo, and I already have like the segments already ready to roll. But again, folks, I mean, I'm very ecstatic about this, and I love all my summer work, though, because again, I get to, give back to our local community in San Diego. Every June, I go and do Little League Baseball. I love baseball. I have loved it my whole life. And I get to go and give those kids, I get to work like the 8, 9, and 10-year-old kids. I love doing it because the parents love it. The kids love it. The coaches love it. I get to work all those big all-star tournaments, which literally we send these teams, or a team usually, to Williamsport, 9 times out of 10 from these other tournaments that we do during the course of our summer. And then, of course, now with this hockey league starting up, though, again, I'm just really eager, though, to really get this podcast started. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to make tryouts on Saturday, but certainly, we're eager to get this project off the ground. Again, I've been really spamming people and getting the word out there about this league. So I mean, I'm very ecstatic, though, about this, and this is going to be fun. But again, folks, look for Puck and Roll, a podcast covering the brand new Upstart Elite Draft League for men's inline roller hockey here in San Diego, much like our coverage of the Oregon Cougars. We'll be having coverage on Friday and Sunday as of right now that is being planned. Our season does not begin until late June, though, at this rate. But we'll have more about that for you folks, hopefully after sometime probably on Thursday on Press Row or even later in the week as well. With that in mind, though, James, any closing thoughts before we get out of here for the night finally?
Yeah, be sure to check out Coast to Coast, all the programs coming. I think we'll have Sports Minute, Entertainment Hour. I should be on those as well as on deck on Sunday. But be sure to put the stars on for every Facebook show there. And yeah, I can't wait to see how that goes and come up, or when you come up my way, I'll come visit out there. And also, I hope that Adam's wife, Amy,
Yes,
heals better, or heals, and just what I've seen and all the pain I can imagine her going through. I just hope that she is healed and better soon. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, keeping Adam and his family in our thoughts and prayers. If, in case you folks maybe wonder why that some programs have not been on, or if Adam's been away for a bit again, like we always say, we have lives away from hosting podcast on C2C, and certainly family comes first. It means more than, your team winning or losing a game. It means more than, hanging out with your friends on a podcast for over 2 hours talking sports. So again, folks, we'll kind of keep you updated here. Again, if it absolutely comes to it, again, we'll bring the righty in from the bullpen, and I'll probably end up hosting Sports Minute on Wednesday night. We'll see what happens with that. And again, I'll be back with you folks for sure, though, on Thursday on Press Row. We'll have more about what Jack brought up, though, about the ongoing NIL lawsuit down in Florida and other stuff involving some potential talks between the Coyotes and the Phoenix Mayor's office. Again, we know that the Coyotes are now in Utah, but again, Alex Marullo is on the clock right now for that arena project down in the Valley of the Sun. We'll have more about that, folks, on Thursday as time goes on again. But once more, folks, again, we invite you again to keep Adam and his family in your thoughts and prayers again at this rate as Adam's wife recovers from surgery. And again, if need be, we'll bring the righty in from the bullpen for Sports Minute. If not, we'll probably just call it a night or call it a day and rejoin you folks back here on Thursday. With that in mind, folks, for James Gonzales, a big shout out to Christy Wilson and our good man Jack Braun for tuning in and for joining us. We'll see you back here, folks, as mentioned, hopefully on Wednesday for Sports Minute. If not, back for sure on Thursday, Press Row, 1 p.m. Pacific time, to get you caught up on all the big things going on in sports media and sports business. But for James Gonzales, yours truly, Cal McClurg, saying good night or good day here from sunny San Diego, California, folks. Till next time, have a good one. Bye-bye.